The Adventures of Henry Egg. The Adventures of Shelley Egg. Once upon a time there was a fridge, and in the fridge there was a box, and in the box there were 5 eggs. Now one egg was singing at the top of her voice, "Left on the shelf with nothing to do, Henry's gone and I am too." Shelley Egg burst out of the fridge. Could you hear her? I think not. She landed on a skateboard that cruised its way out of the kitchen. The beat was cool, the sound was hot. Shelley sang at the top of her voice. But could you hear her? I think not. The skateboard stopped with a crash, and Shelley was hurled through a very small hole in a very dark door. Shelley found herself spinning on a shiny black piano. Ooh, the sounds were pouring out all around her. Oh, I love this music. This tune goes right through my yoke. The beat was cool, the sound was hot. Could you hear her? I think not. The pianist flung open the piano lid, and Shelley was hurled past the drummer, the bass player, and onto the bouncer, who threw her out of the club with a "Don't come back." She landed right on top of a record deck, spinning, scratching and grooving to the sound of the street. The gang was dancing as Shelley sang to her heart's delight. The beat was cool, the sound was hot. Could you hear her? I think not. Zeb span incredibly fast. He lost his balance and knocked Shelley onto the subway. She rolled down the escalators, landing in a warm, soft and smelly flat cap. A harmonica, guitar, cymbal and drum echoed throughout the tunnel, and Shelley just had to sing along. The beat was cool, the sound was hot. Could you hear her? I think not. He threw his cap onto the train. "There's only room for one of us to sing," said Bob Dylan. There was no one in the carriage. Diddly-dum, 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 diddly-dum. "Wow," said Shelley, "I can sing to this." Diddly-dum, diddly-dum. The beat was cool, diddly-dum. The sound was hot, diddly-dum. Could you hear her? I think not, diddly-dee. The ticket inspector appeared. "Where's your ticket, my dear? You haven't got one? What? You're off at the very next stop. It's more than my job's worth." 403 miles later, the train stopped. "Catch this, Jock!" And Shelley landed on Jock's bagpipes. "I can't sing to this." There was no beat, the sound not hot. But could you hear her? I think not. Definitely not. So Jock blew and blew and blew, and green and red and tartan, and the bagpipes grew and exploded, launching Shelley high into the air, right through a huge window of a grand old castle. She landed on top of the wedding cake of Mr. and Mrs. McPlenty to be. The guests were cool, the band was hot. Shelley sang at the top of her voice, but could you hear her? I think not. The cake toppled and Shelley fell into the honeymoon suitcase. Suddenly the case sprung open and everything was strewn onto the Italian hotel floor. She soared over the balcony. She missed the singing gondolier and she landed splatio right into his ice cream. "Oh, this is so romantico," shivered Shelley. The ice cream was cool, the sound was hot, but could you hear her? I think not. The gondolier turned left instead of right and collided with the Bridge of Sighs. Bangio, crashio, wallapio, and Shelley whizzed through the air, landing at the doors of the most famous opera house in the whole wide world. The door creaked open. An enormous hand belonging to Shelley's greatest idol, the great Ombletto, lifted her up to his face. He turned and stomped onto the stage and took a mighty breath. The audience, glued to their seats in anticipation, waited for the music to begin. The great Ombletto filled the Scala with song, and Shelley was on stage with the greatest singer in the whole wide world. She sang the loudest and the proudest she possibly could. Do, re, mi, so. Could you hear her? You did? Are you sure? Well, maybe. The Adventures of Henry Egg.